Today we're going to be looking at how fantasy points could be scored, the must start, the must bench players from the Chiefs-Jaguars game tonight. Before we dig in though, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're breaking down every single game this year. We did it last year to see which players you want to start each week. We're also doing rankings. On top of that, we go deeper than any other channel when it comes looking at the waiver wire. Usually a video every single day. We're deep diving the trending players, and we're helping you set your lineups every single Saturday. So click that button. Stop missing out. It's all free, but we're looking at a matchup here where Vegas thinks it can go either way. It's right down the middle of all the over-unders this week, and you're looking at their last 5 matchups, their last 3 matchups in terms of data. You really can't use it, though, because their last game was in 2023, different coaches, different everything here, different players. But when you're looking at this, you're just looking at the scoring, it's so-so. You got movement, but it's moderate. You can probably guess some moderate movement with this matchup. Last 3 games, you really can't use it. It's 2022 and 2023. 133 rush yards for the Chiefs, 97 for Jacksonville, passing attempts 40 to 37, passing yards 282 to 214. You really can't use it, though. You really can't. So you really got to deep dive this matchup and what these players are doing and what they could be doing against these defenses. One thing about Patrick Mahomes for fantasy football, there's times where people don't like him for fantasy because he's giving you QB2 results. And if you're shooting for the top end, he's sometimes hard to project. However, he's steady, getting you to at least a fairway, if not a lot more. And you're looking at this matchup here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're bending to every quarterback, if not breaking, depending on game script. And you got the fuel, you got the matchup here for Patrick Mahomes. I think you know what to do with him. But with Trevor Lawrence, he's a big-time decision if you're putting him in lineups. You're probably looking at him more as the cheaper quarterback for daily fantasy football tonight than you are looking at him for your fantasy lineups because he's the weaker quarterback of the two. And then on top of that, you probably already picked your quarterback for the week. You're going up against one of the top defenses in the league, and they have held quarterbacks down, but they've bent to some quarterbacks as well. They had that fire game script with Justin Herbert, but he's not Justin Herbert, and he doesn't have 3 good wide receivers, so you can throw that out the window. You're definitely seeing what they did to Lamar, Russ, Hurts, slowing them down, averaging 18.4 PPR fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. That being said, when you're looking at that, there's a chance he gets you to QB2 results, more likely high in QB3. There's a chance he gets you to that 12, 13, 14 range. Because if you're looking at these last 3 games, taking out Herbert's numbers here, they're allowing 14.1 points per game to quarterbacks. They are shutting them down. I think he gets that 10 to 14 range. I think it's going to be hard for him to beat that. I think it's going to be hard for him. The game script would have to break. He's going to have to throw a lot of passing attempts. There would have to be garbage bags around him. Garbage time quarterback is what I'm saying. For him to break that, I think he's a hard start this week, and I think you guys are a major decision here. Isiah Pacheco. He is a decision you got to make for the flex. He's not a guy that you're going to want to start as your RB2, especially going into this week. We had some guys to pick up. You already started those guys if you did. You already made that decision. Now we're in this matchup here, and your question is Pacheco or Hunt. And Pacheco got an RB2 week last week. We're also going up against Jacksonville, and they got a weird year to running backs. Bengals, Houston, they shut them down. Carolina, San Francisco, they did not. And plus, Christian McCaffrey's going to road dog a lot of defenses. A lot of defenses. They're less than league average when it comes to allowing fantasy points to running backs. Pacheco's averaging 4 yards per carry, which isn't great, but at least it's not in the 3s, I guess. If that matters to you. We're getting work in the passing game. When I'm looking at Pacheco here, I think we can get to around 10. I think we can get around 10. Like, you don't want to start him. He's a rough flex. I look at him as a rough flex. I look at Kareem Hunt as a rough throw and play. It's all about who scores the touchdown here in this matchup because that is the big question here. Pacheco's due to score a touchdown on the ground with the rush steps he's getting. Kareem Hunt could be getting more rush attempts than him. That's one thing that they're out there. I look for Rashard Smith to get more work and more opportunities. A lot of his work is going to be in the passing game, but still, he's good between the tackles. He's got that explosiveness. He's got that pop. If you give it to him to the outside, he can bust out that big play. Now looking at the wide receivers here, you're looking at Xavier Worthy. He's got the Q, but according to Ian Rappaport in a video that he posts on Twitter, Xavier Worthy looks healthy, and that was just precautionary. I look for him to be out there. I look for him to be good to go. I look for him to be getting targets and opportunity. I'm not going to move him much off the rankings. I think he's going to be a good upside play for your lineups that you're going to have out there. Marquise Hollywood-Brown is a flex play that could get the targets and workload in this matchup. You could be seeing him getting good workload tonight. He's getting a good target share. He's getting opportunities. He's getting 8 targets per game. Xavier Worthy, I look for the workload to start bumping up. He's always a threat for the big play. Same thing with Tyquan Thornton. He's a threat for the big play. If you're hurting that bad, you're playing DFS, deeper league, throw him in there, and there's like a 50-50, 60-40, something like that chance where he either gets you like next to nothing or he gets you everything. And I can't predict that. It's usually like him getting behind the defense for one big play, a couple big moments, and that gets you there to that fantasy production. Also getting overshots, not getting the look, not getting the opportunity. That's in there. That's why we get close to nothing in those moments. But that's the type of wide receiver you're looking at. Jacksonville's giving up fantasy production to wide receivers. They're either bending or breaking. They broke twice to Chase and Collins. They broke twice to those 2 wide receivers. McMillan, the first ever game, got you double digits. That's the first ever NFL game. Now, Pearsall, the 49ers, that was a slower game script. Now you're looking at the Chiefs here. I think they're going to move the ball. I think they're going to move it at a good rate. I think you're looking at Worthy. You're all right with that. You know the upside. I think there's chance for some volatility here, but I think we're good. I think you're looking at Hollywood-Brown. He's good for the flex. He's a flex play this week. Thornton's your gamble upside play. Juju could sneak some targets, but 12-team leagues, you're not really looking at that, and most of your plays have already went. So honestly, if you're really that hard off, you're throwing them in. More for 14, 16 teamers. Kelce, he's kind of down right now compared to what we saw last year. You see that in the target share. He's at 16%. Last year, well above 20, around 25% range. He's running a lot of routes still. 31 routes per game. 5.5 targets per game. So right now, we're going from getting a lot of targets, racking up yards, and getting you production along with the touchdowns, to now you're just hoping he scores. But we're also running enough routes and getting enough opportunity with the routes ran per game where that could kick back up in certain moments, in certain game scripts and flows. So he could start ramping it up. He's still a start. You're just not liking it as much, especially last year. The targets aren't there. They're just not. They're not coming his way. That's what it is. And Jacksonville can bend 2 tight ends. They showed that in week 4, but they can also hold them down. So that is something to pay attention to. But if the game script breaks, flops, or whatever, they also got some injuries on defense. Kelce could hit for you. Travis Etienne, this is a rough defense. This is a rough matchup. These guys will break, though, to running backs. Saquon, Scatterbill, Hill, they will break the running backs. You got to get creative, though. A lot of it's in the passing game. Etienne catches balls out of the backfield, and it's going to be hard for them to get it to the wide receivers. So this defense will push the quarterbacks to check it down to the running backs and to the tight ends. That being said, Travis Etienne, that kind of plays into how he plays the game. He's very explosive in space, and want to give him the ball in space. He'll probably get most of his production through the air, and I expect him to at least get you to the fairway. He might get you more. He at least gets you to the fairway. He's been hot so much this year that you're not even benching him against tough matchups like this, and they have not been as tough against running backs as they were last year. They're loosening up a little bit, so he does have a good chance this week. You're looking at the wide receivers. I got Travis Hunter in here. He might end up the thumbnail because when I look at both teams, there are not many good pictures when I'm trying to find that. So I might have to roll out Travis Hunter. So it's not to bait you. Sometimes the pixelation on the pictures I'm trying to choose just doesn't work out. And I know this from trying to put together thumbnails, and it's him or Pacheco, and it's like, it's about the same thing. Now you're looking at Brian Thomas Jr. here. He has been flopping. He's got a good target share of 23%. He's getting 8 targets per game. He's running 31 routes per game. The opportunity's there. We just got to fire. This is a rough matchup. I had him in my rankings pretty low, but not so low you're not starting him. But I had him very low this week because it's a rough matchup. We haven't been firing. New offense, quarterback, wide receiver, same page, all that stuff. We might ramp up somewhere down the line. I'm looking at Travis Hunter. We're running 24.5 routes per game. We're getting work all over the field. Our ADOT's at 7, so we're going to be a Wan'Dale Robinson type of player here where we got to rack up targets. That ain't happening at a 15% rate at just 5.25 targets per game because we need to rack up around 10 targets a game. That's where we need to be at to be fantasy relevant or to start scoring touchdowns or start getting targets deeper downfield. But if we keep operating at this target depth, no, we ain't going to be that top-end wide receiver. We got to start operating at a deeper depth and start racking up around 10 targets a game. 8 to 10. 8 at minimal, and then 10 around your average per game, and then we got to hit high. We just got to get more work and opportunities out there. That being said, you're not really looking at him in this matchup. You're not really looking at him in this matchup when you're setting the lineup, but that could break in his favor as you got to get creative. They're probably going to be taking out Brian Thomas Jr. here, as they do a lot of wide receivers. They did it last year. They're doing it this year. And you're going to have to get creative. Go to your second and third reads, Travis Etienne, and then also your tight end. So you could definitely see Parker Washington, Diamond Brown, some of the other players in this offense hitting along with Brenton Strange here. Brenton Strange is going to run a lot of routes, get a lot of opportunities, running 26 routes per game. He's got a decent route participation rate at 70%. So 70% of the time, when Trevor Lawrence is dropping back, he's out there running a route. And you got to run routes to get targets. His target share is fine, but it's not elite, so he's going to be volatile. Right now in the season, he's got you 1 tight end 1 week, 2 double-digit weeks. You don't look at tight end 2 weeks because it's not productive enough. It's just not. When you're scoring 9.9 and 10.5 for tight end 2 weeks, that's just a couple points away from being a tight end 25 because the tight end position is very fluky. You're hoping for touchdowns because when you're running a 5.8 average depth of target, the targets ain't deep enough per your 5.75 target volume per game to really rack up yards and catches and volume to get you there. So you got to randomly score touchdowns. The Chiefs are good against tight ends. This is something you need to think about, though, is how teams got to get creative against this pass defense, the rush, and everything else. So I'm thinking Travis Etienne in the passing game as the outlet. Travis Hunter, one of the other wide receivers. And if we get into the red zone, you're hoping Brenton Strange gets the target. If you got him on your team, you're watching the routes, you're watching targets, you're just throwing them in. But we got hit up with some good tight ends off the waiver wire this week, so you might be switching out. On top of that, Darren Waller came back. You probably started him over Strange because Brenton Strange was just sitting there, and it was him or Waller, or you picked up Strange, you dropped him for Waller because that was the guy on the come-up for this week, or you went with one of the other guys, which there wasn't really that many that was hot off the waiver wire going into week 5. You're looking at Brenton Strange. You're hoping he scores the touchdown. That's always going to be up in the air. That's always going to be the gamble. That's the matchup today. Drop that rally cap in the comment section below. What do you need this week to win your matchup? I want to hear about that. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.